David Goggins is widely regarded as one of the toughest endurance athletes and motivational figures in the world. Known for his extreme mental toughness, incredible endurance, achievements, and inspiring life story, Goggins has become a symbol of discipline and resilience. However, his journey to success did not begin with comfort or privilege. Instead, it started with a difficult childhood, personal struggles, and a determination to overcome adversity. David Goggins was born on February 17, 1975, in Buffalo, New York, United States. He grew up in a challenging environment that had a major impact on his personality and mindset. His parents were Toughness Goggins and Jackie Goggins, and he also had a brother. The family lived in Buffalo during David's early childhood. His father owned a skating rink business, and the family spent long hours working there. While the business may have seemed like a stable opportunity, life behind the scenes was very difficult. David Goggins has openly spoken about the abuse and fear he experienced during his childhood. His father was extremely strict and often violent, creating a stressful and dangerous environment for the family. As a young child, David and his brother were forced to work long hours at the skating rink. Their father demanded discipline and hard work, but the environment was filled with fear rather than encouragement. The physical and emotional abuse left a deep impact on Goggins' early life. Eventually, David's mother decided she could no longer continue living in that environment. She made the difficult decision to leave Buffalo with her children to escape the abuse and start a new life. The family moved to Brazil, Indiana, a small town in the Midwest. Although leaving Buffalo helped them escape the violent household, their challenges were far from over. Life in Indiana brought a new set of struggles for David Goggins. As an African-American child in a predominantly white community, he experienced racism and discrimination. These experiences were extremely painful and made him feel isolated. Goggins has spoken about how difficult it was to grow up in a place where he felt different from the people around him. School was also a major challenge for him. Goggins struggled academically and often had difficulty focusing on his studies. He has said that he lacked confidence in his ability to learn and felt far behind other students. At times, he even doubted whether he was capable of succeeding in life. During his teenage years, Goggins faced additional problems with self-esteem and physical fitness. Unlike the strong and disciplined figure people know today, he once struggled with obesity and poor health. He lacked motivation and direction, and the stress of his childhood experiences made it difficult for him to focus on building a better future. These early struggles could have easily pushed him toward a negative path. However, the hardships he experienced eventually helped shape his determination to change his life. Goggins later described these years as the foundation for his mental toughness. The pain and adversity he experienced forced him to develop resilience. One of the most important ideas that later defined David Goggins' philosophy is what he calls callousing the mind. This concept means building mental strength by facing difficult challenges instead of avoiding them. According to Goggins, the hardships he experienced as a child forced him to confront discomfort and pain at an early age. As he grew older, Goggins began to think seriously about his future. He realized that if he wanted a better life, he would have to take responsibility for his own growth and success. This realization became a turning point in his mindset. After finishing high school, Goggins worked several different jobs while trying to find direction in his life. One of his most notable early jobs was working in pest control, which involved long hours of physically demanding work. While the job was difficult, it gave him time to reflect on what he wanted to achieve in life. At this point in his life, Goggins was still far from becoming the disciplined athlete he is today. He weighed nearly 300 pounds and did not have a clear plan for the future. However, everything began to change when he discovered a new goal that would completely transform his life. One day, while watching a television program about the United States Navy SEALs, Goggins felt a powerful sense of inspiration. The program showed the intense training and discipline required to become a SEAL. These elite warriors were known for their physical strength, mental toughness, and ability to endure extreme hardship. For Goggins, this moment became a life-changing realization. He saw the Navy SEALs as the embodiment of everything he wanted to become: strong, disciplined, and mentally unbreakable. However, there was a major problem. At the time, Goggins was far from meeting the physical requirements needed to join the military. He was overweight, out of shape, and lacking the endurance required for the demanding SEAL training program. But instead of giving up, Goggins made a decision that would define the rest of his life. He decided that he would completely transform himself. No matter how difficult the process would be, he began training intensely, pushing his body to its limits and developing the discipline that would later make him famous. The journey from an overweight young man with little direction to one of the toughest endurance athletes in the world had officially begun. The transformation that followed would eventually lead David Goggins to become a Navy SEAL, ultramarathon runner, motivational speaker and author, inspiring millions of people around the world with his story of perseverance. David Goggins is known around the world as one of the toughest endurance athletes and motivational speakers. His achievements include becoming a Navy SEAL, ultramarathon runner, triathlete, and former Air Force Tactical Air Control Party member. However, the story behind his transformation is even more inspiring than the accomplishments themselves. Before becoming a symbol of discipline and resilience, Goggins struggled with obesity, lack of confidence, and a difficult childhood. Understanding who motivated him to begin training in the gym and what pushed him to join the military reveals how his mindset developed and how he turned hardship into strength. Early influences that shaped David Goggins. David Goggins did not grow up with traditional role models encouraging him toward athletics or military service. In fact, his early environment was extremely difficult. He was born in Buffalo, New York, and spent much of his childhood in a stressful household. His father ran a skating rink business, and David and his brother were forced to work there for long hours, although his father's harsh discipline created many painful memories. The experience unintentionally exposed David to the idea that hard work and endurance were necessary to survive difficult situations. Even though the environment was abusive, the experience planted the early seeds of mental toughness that would later shape his life. Eventually, David's mother left Buffalo with her children to escape the abusive environment and moved to Indiana. While this move improved their safety, David faced new challenges. Growing up as one of the few African American children in a predominantly white town, he experienced racism and bullying. These experiences damaged his self-esteem and made school extremely difficult for him. At this point in his life, David Goggins did not see himself as someone capable of achieving greatness. He struggled academically and lacked confidence in his abilities. However, these hardships eventually became the foundation of the resilience that would later define his character. The turning point. Inspiration from the Navy SEALs. The biggest motivation that pushed David Goggins toward physical fitness and the military came from watching a television program about the Navy SEALs. At the time, Goggins was working in pest control, spraying houses and crawling under buildings for long hours every day. His job was physically demanding, but it did not provide a sense of purpose. After long workdays, he often returned home feeling frustrated with his life. During this period, Goggins was also struggling with his weight. He weighed nearly 300 pounds and was far from the physical condition required for any elite military training. One evening, he watched a television program that showed the training process for the US Navy SEALs, including the famous BUD or basic underwater demolition or SEAL training. The program showed candidates enduring intense physical challenges, freezing ocean water, sleep deprivation, and brutal workouts. For most people watching the program, the training looked impossible. But for David Goggins, it triggered a powerful realization. He saw the Navy SEALs as the embodiment of everything he wanted to become. Disciplined, mentally strong, physically powerful, capable of overcoming any challenge. Watching the training motivated him to rethink his life. For the first time, he believed it might be possible to completely transform himself. Self-motivation, the most powerful influence. Many people look for external motivation. David Goggins often explains that his greatest motivation came from himself. After watching the program about the Navy SEALs, he decided that he wanted to become one of them. However, the reality was that he was far from qualified to even apply for SEAL training. He needed to lose nearly 100 pounds, dramatically improve his physical fitness, pass extremely difficult military tests. Instead of giving up, Goggins began training with a level of discipline that few people could maintain. He started running every day, lifting weights, and following strict workouts. He also changed his eating habits to lose weight quickly. Within 3 months, he lost nearly 100 pounds. This intense transformation required extraordinary dedication. During this time, Goggins realized that motivation alone was not enough. He needed discipline, consistency, and mental toughness. Role models and inspiration. Self-discipline was the biggest factor. Several influences helped shape David Goggins' motivation. 1. Navy SEALs. The Navy SEALs themselves were his primary inspiration. The elite reputation of the SEALs represented the ultimate test of physical and mental strength. 2. Military culture. The idea of serving in the military also appealed to Goggins because it represented structure, purpose, and discipline, qualities that had been missing from his early life. 3. Personal pain. Ironically, many of Goggins' greatest motivations came from painful experiences in his childhood. The abuse, racism, and self-doubt he faced created a deep desire to prove to himself that he could overcome adversity. He later explained that instead of running from pain, he decided to use it as fuel for improvement. First steps into the gym. Goggins committed to becoming a Navy SEAL. He began spending many hours in the gym. His early workouts included running long distances, push-ups and pull-ups, weightlifting, endurance training. Unlike many beginners, Goggins trained with an extreme mindset. Instead of stopping when workouts became difficult, he pushed himself beyond his limits. This mentality eventually became one of his most famous philosophies. When your mind tells you you're done, you're only 40% done. The journey toward military service. After months of intense training and weight loss, Goggins was finally able to meet the physical requirements to apply for the Navy SEAL program. However, his journey was still far from easy. He had to face multiple obstacles, including medical challenges and repeated attempts to complete the brutal SEAL training program. Despite these difficulties, his determination and mental toughness allowed him to continue pursuing his goal. The same motivation that pushed him to start training in the gym also helped him endure one of the toughest military training programs in the world. David Goggins is widely known as one of the toughest endurance athletes in the world. His accomplishments include completing some of the most difficult ultramarathons, endurance races, and physical challenges ever attempted. However, his journey into long-distance running did not begin with natural talent or athletic advantages. Instead, it began with a powerful desire to push his limits and test the strength of his mind. The story of how David Goggins began running extremely long marathons is closely connected to his personal struggles, military career, and the people and ideas that motivated him to become mentally stronger. Life before ultramarathons. David Goggins became famous for running extreme endurance races. He had already built a reputation for mental toughness through his military service. Goggins served in the United States Air Force Tactical Air Control Party (TACP) and later became a Navy SEAL, completing one of the toughest military training programs in the world. SEAL training, known as BUD or as Basic Underwater Demolition or SEAL training, is famous for pushing candidates beyond their physical and mental limits. Completing SEAL training required him to develop incredible endurance and discipline. The training included long-distance runs, ocean swims in freezing water, sleep deprivation, heavy physical exercises, mental stress and pressure. Ethos experiences helped build the mental toughness that later allowed him to handle extreme endurance challenges. However, after becoming a Navy SEAL, Goggins faced a new challenge that would lead him into the world of ultramarathons, the event that changed his running career. Turning point in David Goggins' marathon journey came when he learned about a group of Navy SEALs who had died in Afghanistan during Operation Red Wings. This tragic event deeply affected him. Goggins wanted to honor fallen soldiers and support their families. He began searching for ways to raise money for the families of these service members. Eventually, he discovered an opportunity through ultramarathon races, where runners compete in distances much longer than traditional marathons. A standard marathon is 26.2 miles, 42 kilometers. Ultramarathons can be 50 miles, 100 miles, or even longer. Goggins decided that running an ultramarathon would be a powerful way to raise money and awareness for military families. However, there was one major problem at that time. He had never run a marathon before. The first ultramarathon, a brutal beginning. David Goggins entered the San Diego one-day ultramarathon, a race that allowed runners to run as far as possible within 24 hours. The problem was that he had almost no long-distance running experience. His body was not fully prepared for such a long event. Despite the lack of preparation, Goggins decided to run the race anyway. What happened during that race became one of the most famous stories in endurance sports. During the race, Goggins pushed himself far beyond his limits. His body began to break down under the stress of continuous running. He experienced severe physical pain, including stress fractures in his feet, extreme muscle damage, dehydration, kidney problems, hallucinations from exhaustion. At one point, he was urinating blood, which is a sign of serious physical stress. Most people would have stopped immediately, but David Goggins refused to quit. He continued running and eventually completed 101 miles in less than 24 hours. The result of that race was not only a personal achievement but also helped him raise thousands of dollars for military families. More importantly, the experience proved something powerful to Goggins. The human mind is capable of far more than people believe. Who motivated David Goggins? Unlike many athletes who rely heavily on coaches or trainers for motivation, David Goggins' motivation came from several different sources. 1. Fallen soldier. Of the strongest motivations for Goggins during his first ultramarathon was the memory of fallen military service members. He believed that if soldiers could sacrifice their lives for their country, he could push himself through extreme pain to honor them. This sense of purpose helped him continue running even when his body was failing. 2. His own painful past. A major source of motivation for Goggins was his difficult childhood. Growing up, he faced abuse in his home, racism and bullying, academic struggles, low self-confidence. Instead of allowing those experiences to define him negatively, Goggins used them as fuel to prove to himself that he could become stronger. Running became a way for him to confront his past and transform pain into strength. 3. The desire to test human limits. David Goggins is famous for his philosophy that people only use a small percentage of their true potential. He often says, "When your mind tells you that you're done, you're only about 40% done." This belief became a major motivation behind his endurance challenges. By running extremely long races, he wanted to explore the limits of human mental strength, training for extreme endurance. After completing his first ultramarathon, David Goggins realized that endurance racing was something he wanted to continue. He began training intensely to prepare for longer and more difficult races. His training routines often included running 20-30 miles in a single day, multiple workouts per day, strength training, cycling, and swimming. Extreme mental conditioning. Unlike many athletes who train gradually, Goggins often pushed himself to extreme levels. His goal was not only physical improvement but also strengthening his mind, becoming one of the toughest endurance athletes. After his first race, Goggins began competing in some of the most difficult ultramarathons in the world. These races included events such as Badwater 135, one of the toughest ultramarathons on Earth, 100-mile endurance races, 24-hour running events. Badwater 135, for example, is a race across Death Valley, where temperatures can reach over 120 F49C. Completing such races requires incredible physical endurance and mental determination. Through these challenges, David Goggins built a reputation as one of the toughest endurance athletes alive. Mental strength over physical ability. One of the most important lessons from David Goggins' marathon journey is that success in endurance sports is often more about mental strength than physical talent. Many athletes start races with strong bodies but quit when the pain becomes overwhelming. Goggins believes that the ability to continue when the body wants to stop is what separates elite endurance athletes from others. His philosophy focuses on embracing discomfort, confronting fear, building mental resilience, pushing beyond perceived limits. Gym motivation is something many people struggle with. At the beginning of a fitness journey, enthusiasm is often high. People feel excited about training, building strength, and improving their health. However, after a few weeks or months, motivation can decrease. Work becomes busy, workouts feel harder, and progress sometimes slows down. When this happens, many people stop going to the gym. One person whose story provides powerful lessons about motivation is David Goggins. Known as one of the toughest endurance athletes in the world, Goggins has completed extreme ultramarathons, served as a Navy SEAL, and inspired millions of people through his philosophy of mental toughness. His life demonstrates that real motivation does not come from comfort or inspiration alone. It comes from discipline, resilience, and the willingness to face discomfort. Using David Goggins' experiences as an example, we can understand how gym motivation works and how anyone can develop the mindset needed to stay consistent with fitness goals. David Goggins. Starting point: many people assume that successful athletes begin with natural talent and strong bodies. David Goggins' story proves that this is not always the case. Before becoming known for extreme endurance challenges, Goggins struggled with his physical fitness. After leaving the military temporarily and working a regular job, he gained a significant amount of weight. At one point, he weighed nearly 300 pounds. He was out of shape, unhappy with his life, and unsure about his future. One day, while watching a television program about Navy SEAL training, he realized that he wanted to become stronger and more disciplined. However, there was a major problem. He was far from meeting the physical requirements for the program. Instead of giving up, Goggins decided to transform himself. He began training intensely, running long distances, lifting weights, and changing his diet. Within about 3 months, he lost nearly 100 pounds. This transformation demonstrates one of the most important lessons about gym motivation: your starting point does not determine your future progress. Motivation vs. discipline. Many people believe motivation is the key to success in fitness. However, David Goggins often explains that motivation is temporary. Some days you feel excited to train, but other days you feel tired or unmotivated. Goggins believes the real key to success is discipline. Discipline means training even when you do not feel motivated. It means showing up at the gym when you are tired, stressed, or busy. According to Goggins, the days when you least want to train are often the most important. For example, imagine waking up early in the morning for a workout. The bed feels comfortable and the gym seems far away. At that moment, motivation might be low. But discipline means getting up anyway and completing the workout over time. This consistency builds both physical strength and mental resilience. Facing discomfort. A lesson from David Goggins' journey is the importance of embracing discomfort. Many people avoid situations that are physically or mentally challenging. However, growth usually happens when we push ourselves outside of our comfort zones. When Goggins began his transformation, running even a short distance was difficult for him. Instead of avoiding the discomfort, he faced it directly. The gym. This idea can apply to many situations: finishing the last few repetitions of a difficult exercise, running longer distances than usual, increasing the weight during strength training, pushing through fatigue during workouts. Each time someone chooses to face discomfort instead of avoiding it, their body and mind become stronger. The 40% rule. One of David Goggins' most famous ideas is the 40% rule. According to this concept, when people feel like they have reached their limit, they have actually only used about 40% of their true capacity. In other words, the human mind often gives up long before the body truly needs to stop. This idea can be very powerful for gym motivation. For example, imagine someone performing push-ups. After 15 repetitions, their muscles begin to burn and their mind tells them to stop. However, if they push a little further, they might discover they can do 20 or even 25. The same principle applies to many forms of training. Often, the biggest barrier is not physical strength, but mental resistance. Learning to push past that resistance gradually expands your abilities, building mental strength through training. David Goggins often explains that physical training is not only about improving the body, it is also a way to strengthen the mind. Every workout is an opportunity to practice mental toughness. When exercises become difficult, the mind has two choices: quit or continue. Choosing to continue builds confidence and resilience. For example, when someone completes a challenging workout, they feel a sense of accomplishment. This feeling can motivate them to return to the gym again. Over time, these small victories create a powerful cycle of progress. Setting clear goals. Another important lesson from David Goggins is the importance of setting clear and challenging goals. When Goggins decided to become a Navy SEAL, he had a specific objective. This goal gave him a reason to train every day. Similarly, gym motivation becomes stronger when people set clear goals such as losing a certain amount of weight, building muscle, improving endurance, completing a marathon. Lifting a specific weight. Goals provide direction and purpose. They help transform workouts from random activities into meaningful progress towards something important. The importance of consistency. One of the biggest reasons people fail to maintain gym motivation is inconsistency. They may train intensely for a few weeks and then stop for a long period. David Goggins' story shows the importance of consistent effort over time. His transformation did not happen in a single workout. It required daily commitment and repeated effort. In fitness, small improvements made consistently can lead to major results over time. For example, running slightly longer distances each week, gradually increasing weights during strength training, maintaining regular workout schedule. This habits create steady progress. Overcoming self-doubt. Many people struggle with self-doubt when starting a fitness journey. They may believe they are not strong enough, not athletic enough, or not disciplined enough. David Goggins faced similar doubts early in his life. However, he chose to confront these doubts rather than accept them. He often says that the mind can create negative stories about our abilities. By challenging those stories through action, we can rewrite them. For example, completing a difficult workout proves to yourself that you are capable of more than you thought. Motivation. Through personal growth, perhaps the most powerful motivation in fitness comes from personal growth. David Goggins did not train only to look stronger. He trained to become a stronger person, mentally and emotionally. Similarly, gym training can improve many aspects of life, including confidence, discipline, stress management, focus, resilience. These benefits often extend far beyond the gym. Conclusion. Gym motivation is not something that appears automatically every day. It must be developed through discipline, goals, and the willingness to face challenges. David Goggins' life provides a powerful example of how determination and mental toughness can transform a person's physical and mental abilities. His journey from an overweight young man to one of the toughest endurance athletes in the world demonstrates that real motivation comes from within. By applying his lessons, embracing discomfort, staying disciplined, and pushing beyond perceived limits, anyone can develop the mindset needed to succeed in fitness and in life.